right, I want to thank you all for coming. It's 7 p.m. I was expecting 2 more of our board members, but maybe they're in the concert, I don't know.
Yeah, turn off your cell phones.
Please silence your cell phones, that would be great. I would appreciate it very much.
I said that,
Welcome
but
to
turn mine
the July 18th meeting of the Nottingham Zoning Board of Adjustment. Today we have 3 cases, a continuation case, and then 2 other cases to be heard. I will start with introductions, please. And Romeo.
off. Romeo Dene?
Oh, Terry Bonzer.
And I'm Teresa Bascom. I will call each case, and then the applicant will come to the table. Please introduce yourself, speaking into the microphone, state your name and where you live. And that goes for anybody who comes forward to speak for or against as well. If you're the applicant, I ask that you, after I've read your case, that you come forward and then speak to your application as to why you're here, going through the 5 criteria. The board will have a chance to make some questions from you,
Move that
and
microphone in front
then
of her.
we will
Move this one in front of you.
then we will open it up for discussion for those who are for or against, and we'll go from there on the cases, okay? Any questions? All right. So the first case we have is a continuation. It's case 23-006. It's an application from Nathan Varney requesting a special exception to Article 3, Section A for E3 of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit the raising of more than 5 chickens and pigs in the Aquifer Protection District. The ordinance states that the permitted uses include farming, gardening, nursery, forestry, harvesting, and grazing of no more than 5 animals, and at levels that will not cause groundwater contamination. The property is located at 12 Swan Drive in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 24, lot 48. So remind people, this is a continuation. This case was first heard last month, June 20th, and we did a site walk and looked around your property because most of us had been on a site visit but hadn't seen the pigs and where those were located. Do you have anything further to add for us?
No, the only change from last time we all met was, as I stated, I had 2 more pigs going in the processor, and they have since gone, so the
Okay.
total population is 3.
Okay. Excellent.
Yep.
Anything from any of the other board members on this?
I didn't, the site walk was pretty informative. Looked like he's got plenty of room for them. Thank you.
Terry?
Well, I just had a chart, I have a chart, I looked up on, they allow 5 animals. There's it's just 5 animals, it's pretty
Generic.
wide, yeah, it's not real, so, I mean, so if you got like, this was a chart from the internet, it was milking cows, produces like 99 pounds of manure a day, so I mean.
No, not a day.
Well, milking cow does, yeah. That's what it says on this, it says 45.
For each.
But even if it goes less, so say we go down to the adult cow or something, it's 39 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, what goes in must come out. So, so it's 39 pounds. So I mean, if you take the smallest amount of manure from a cow, that's like 5 pigs. So, you got 5 cows, you could have, 25 pigs. And then chickens are, even less manure. It's not, I think, to equal a cow, it's almost like 130 chickens. So there's such a variation in the description of the animals and manure. I mean, we're here to protect the aquifer zone from pollution, and that's, that's where it is. So, I mean, you have now, what, 3 pigs?
Yep.
And what do you have for chicken, 24 maybe?
Yeah, it was 28, I think it was.
28.
How many acres again? I forgot.
So the main lot that we're on is 1.4, and then we have another 1/4 acre on the lake. that's separated by the end of Swan Drive.
Okay.
And I did make some inquiries to the New Hampshire Cooperative Extension at UNH, got no response back. I was gonna put a call out to the Farm Bureau, but I never got around to doing that, I apologize. But I did make several tries to get some sort of government agency to specify 5 animals and what that would be, because we want to be mindful of the Aquifer Protection District, and from what we've seen, it seems as though things there are not at a crazy level at this point.
Right, yeah, it's not about noise, it's not about smell, I mean, it's just about pollution. That's what it comes down to, so.
All right, we had not closed the public hearing, so is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this case? All right, could you have a seat and come forward, please? Again, please state your name and your address.
Malcolm Estelle, 22 Fort Hill Road, Nottingham.
Okay,
So I have a couple questions that I direct to you guys, which you can answer.
correct.
So is this a personal consumption farm, or is it a business farm?
I was under the impression he had said it was personal consumption for his family.
Okay, so there's no LLC, not incorporated, we're not selling stuff as a profit?
Mr. Barney, would you care to?
Yeah, so I have a sole proprietorship. The idea was to have it kind of be able to fund itself what we're doing to cover feed. So of the pigs that we did have from the first litter, we did sell them, and I wanted to just make sure that, like the meat, as far as taxes and everything went, we were not messing up. I just wanted everything to be like real clear for our CPA, so that's kind of why we did that. The main thing that we sell and provide is microgreens to restaurants.
So it's a business?
You don't speak with him, you speak to.
No, is it a business, classified as business? LLC, incorporated, anything? What's the designation? Anybody?
I think a lot of farms are businesses,
Yep.
yeah.
But it's
No,
resident-
there's no-
I assume it's
there's no law
residential.
against businesses on that.
Right, but I assume it's residential, and we're talking about a variance to an animal version along with the Aquifer Protection Program, but once that's granted, who polices it?
Well, obviously, the neighbors are going to, because they're the ones who have brought forward the complaint to begin with. And the specifics on this is the animals in the Aquifer Protection District.
Right.
We're not speaking anything about his LLC.
Okay, well, but that's fine, so I'm saying, and as far as I can hear, no one's determined what 5 animals is, whether it's a cow, a chicken, the same problem we had for our last time we heard about what an animal is.
We were not able to find it.
I know, that's what I'm saying, so the rule is, it's still 5 animals.
Well, he can bring in 5 cows, I don't know. if he-
Okay, then it still
Go
falls,
down
it still
more.
falls within the rules. I'm not trying to bust anybody's chops, the rule is 5 animals.
It should be based on
Should be,
manure.
but it's not. And like I said last time, if that's the case, then the town needs to redo that rule and put it out for, I'm assuming, a town vote, if that's the case,
It would be. And
But-
it is being brought forward
which is fine.
to the board, to the planning board to go forward through a change for the ordinance for the March elections.
Yeah, which is
I
fine.
brought it forward to them, that it is very obscure as to what 5 animals are, and we, in all honesty, can't say, especially based on the chart that Mr. Bonser found, that a dozen chickens gives you the same waste excrement as a cow.
Okay, you said that the neighbors would be policing this, so I'm supposed to count as chickens?
I did not say that, and I did not infer for that. You asked who would be policing it, I'm like, the neighbors are the ones that brought forward the complaint.
Right.
So I'm sure that the neighbors are gonna be keeping an eye and would be the ones to come forward. If you don't, you don't. I mean, it's.
I don't disagree.
I'm not asking you to spy on your
No,
neighbor.
I didn't, I'm not meaning it that way. And the initial, I think back in our first meeting, there was, the reason they bought this is because they thought they could do this.
Correct.
at this property. So that rule was there then,
And there was a chicken coop there then,
but we don't know how many chickens were in it. So
probably
it-
none when he bought it.
But I'm saying it could have been under the rule at this point. So again, all I'm saying is I don't understand why we're trying to grant a variance to something that the rule was there, it was there beforehand, it didn't change while he was there.
Okay, let me ask you
sorry.
this. Do you, the whole purpose of the zoning board is to give a variance or an excusal, if you will, on something. So if you were building a porch and the rule says 50-foot, help me out with the word there. If 50
Still a lot line, I know what he's saying.
and you want to go in an extra 20 feet, so you're asking us to excuse 20
Yeah.
feet. Should we say to you, the rule is 50, you can only do the 50? No variance granted to you?
Well, I suppose if I knew the rule going in, I wouldn't be asking for the rule.
You would be one out of a huge exception
Oh,
of people.
okay.
That's why this
But then
board
again,
exists.
if that rule broke or a rule as far as we're talking about pollution to a water source, then I would imagine it would be a cut and dry no.
But what we've done is of some research on pollution to it, and we are not seeing this as an issue. with
Okay,
the
so
case.
whoever wrote the rule before
There's,
had some background for this, I'm assuming.
there are no footnotes as to what this came from, or any resource for us to go and check it out. So we've done our due diligence in doing a site walk
Just saying.
and seeing what he does with the excrement from his animals. And we've looked at what the internet has for excrement for different types of animals. And the 3 pigs that he has and the chickens that he has are far fewer, far smaller in number of waste than if he had 5 cows.
If you had one cow,
Correct.
it would exceed the,
So I,
Okay, it sounds like this has already happened, so thank you for your time.
it hasn't happened. We're here to discuss it.
If the conversation is whether it's a cow or a pig, it's happened.
Anybody else wish to speak for or against this? Okay.
Jenny Gibson, 13 Swan Drive.
I'm sorry, please.
Jenny Gibson, 13 Swan Drive.
Thank you.
My question is, during this whole conversation, it's not been decided how many animals he will be allowed to have. I know the Lone Acre Farm is allowed to have, it's a chicken egg production and hog farm, according to online. So how many animals, is there a limit? And there is a smell. Pity you weren't there this week.
No, farming does.
It does, but you don't move into a residential area hoping that your house will smell like pig poop every single day. But, how many, is there a limit? What is the limit? How many animals are you allowing? Is my question.
And it is something we will discuss. Thank you.
Question?
Anybody else?
Question of Varney?
Yep, hold on. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing,
the one living in this.
which is 7:13. Mr. Varney, you can come forward. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Varney, we've got a printout that you get this from the UNH?
No, I just got from the internet.
Oh, from the
Yeah,
internet.
there's not much.
Uh,
I couldn't find
shows-
anything at UNH.
Shows the potential excrement of a cow up to almost 100 pounds a day. And should we stop for a second and allow? Okay, we're gonna stop for a moment.
Hello, Kevin, thank you.
Kevin Bassett's gonna come in.
Please note, Kevin has arrived. It's 7:14. Thank you.
Wait till Kevin gets settled.
Excuse me?
We're gonna wait till you get settled.
Good.
You settled yet?
I'm getting it.
He settles quickly.
All right. Teresa probably introduced to you what we're considering right now.
We're still on first case, every hearing.
Understood.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Varney, from the information that Terry found, a milking cow could be almost 100 pounds of poop a day. And a pig could vary between 4.5 to 7 pounds a day. Do you intend to have any milking cows?
No, sir.
That, I'm-
No, sir.
okay. Can we say that we can give the variance subject to no milking cows? Okay, so you're not thinking that you're gonna do any milking cows in the future? And would you be against a variance that said, sure, you can raise animals, we'll get into that part later, but with no milking cows?
Yes, sir.
Or cows of any kind, since dairy cattle are supposedly hitting around 40 pounds of poop a day also. Okay, so we got that part taken care of. When we were there, I observed that you had different groups of chickens and probably layers and meat birds, and you also had some pigs. And so is it your intention that you're gonna continue along with the pigs and the chickens?
As I stated in the last meeting we had, our intention is to slowly decrease the population of the pigs to 0 for the time being.
Yeah,
Should we be allowed, an exception, you know, down the road, doing 1 or 2 for ourselves and friends and family maybe?
yeah,
But our intention, as far as right now goes, is to reduce the pig population to 0, and, the chickens, population at the moment is where it is, and we'll probably continue to go down a little bit, but we would like to continue to have chickens as well.
how many chickens do you have right now roughly?
I think it's, last time I counted, I think it was around 28.
28? Okay. And right now, you have some pigs, and do you have some piglets also?
We do not, and, based on gestation and heat cycles, I don't believe we will have any either. We should be long past anything like that.
Okay. All right. So no cows, no dairy cattle, no cattle, and pigs and chickens, and you're reducing the number of pigs as it is. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Are you including horses in with the same category as the cows?
Yes, we would include horses. We said cattle, but we'll go with large farm animals such as pigs, cows, steer. I'm sorry, not pigs, cows, beef cattle, horses.
Is that a yes or a no?
Do you intend on raising horses?
I do not.
Took care of that.
Okay, that answered that.
Mr. Bassett will be seated and voting for Kathy Mayo. It is 719. Excuse me, 718. Okay?
Are we modifying this request then for raising no cows or cattle or horses, but pigs and chickens? And do you want to limit the number of pigs? Say no more than 3 or 5 or whatever?
I'm happy to go with whatever the board decides.
Well, you're making an application, and if you started having 20 pigs, I'm sure the neighbors would be screaming, and then you would be violating what we're trying to figure out tonight. So if you say 3 to 5 pigs, because, and I'm not calling piglets either, because if you have a sow and a boar, or if you have the sow, I don't know what the kind word is for that, but anyway, you might have piglets. I think they have a litter generally of around 8 to 10 or 12. So piglets would be, you're gonna sell those after a period of time. So we're trying to make this so that everybody's happy. Chickens, 3 to 5 pigs, piglets that you're gonna be, once the piglets are starting to get to be pigs, they're gonna have to be, you know, if you exceed the 3 to 5, you're gonna have to start selling them or whatever, but, I think they're, when do they start selling pigs, piglets, about, 10 weeks?
8
8
weeks.
weeks.
8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, all right. So you're okay with modifying your request this way?
I am, and if I could make a comment on enforcement, just to
Sure.
be transparent. I have no problem with, should there be any population change regarding pigs, to be fully transparent with the town health officer, so they can be aware as well. So if there's any sort of, anything like that, the town can always be apprised of what's happening.
Okay. So how are we gonna rewrite this? We gonna make a motion?
It would be a motion with an amendment.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Madam Chair, I gave you a suggested quantity,
You did,
four-legged, two-legged.
yes, and Terry provided us with this. Just like what we've been
So I
referencing.
know what I sent you.
I think yours is pretty similar.
Is that this,
No, I sent you an info. I have this.
Okay.
I think it was Sunday. For the board to consider. And it's down the track that you were just,
okay.
and I think it's at least close
I'm
to
gonna pass it down to Romeo.
your
He's the one who's
present-
trying to make the
the
motion.
present circumstance.
Oh, these are just suggestions?
For the
Okay,
board to consider, if,
all right,
and obviously the applicant.
yeah. You know, I raised 5 pigs on my farm a while back on the lower portion. And we kept them in a pen that was about almost the size of this room. And we moved the pen around so they could have fresh roots to work on. But, you know, of course, it's a 20-acre farm, so had lots of land. But it didn't seem as though that was really a big problem. I don't know what to say. He's down to 1.65 acres. And we're worrying about nitrogen affecting the water quality. So the gentleman has suggested he's willing to limit or to consider limitation of a certain amount of animals. So should we make is it gonna be 3, 5?
What Mr. Bassett provided for us for, and what did you use to come up with these numbers?
Not much more than discussions with a couple local folks who grow pigs
Okay.
and chickens.
That for four-legged animals, AKA in this instance, the pigs, if he has 1 pig, then up to 55 chickens. The two-legged animals is listed as. For 2 pigs, it would be 45 chickens. For 3 pigs, it would be 35. 4, it would be 25, and for 5, it would be 10. So, and you said you planned, and you already are down to 2 pigs?
3.
Three pigs. It'd be 35 chickens is on that as well.
And
That was the suggestion from,
that's just about what you got.
Yep, that sounds fair.
But it gives some guidelines between two-legged and four-legged, and then the quantities thereof. Because our ordinance says 5 animals, so
All right,
there's a big difference between them. So, I didn't know if the board thought that was a compromise, and the applicant, of course.
so we're suggesting right now that you're limited to 3 pigs. Piglets are, I guess, exempt to the extent that you'll be, once a piglet turns 8 or 10 weeks, they're now being classified as pigs, so then it would be over and above the limit of 3. So, and so if you have a sow and a boar, you're gonna have piglets. So we're,
you put them together.
pardon me? Yeah, they'll get together, I guarantee you. So
Separated.
we're modifying the application to be 3 pig.
Amending.
Excuse me?
Amending.
Amending. Oh,
You are approving with an amendment.
okay, amending. We're amending this to be that you're gonna have no more than 3 pigs and 20 chickens,
But it says 35 by Kevin.
35?
Yeah.
We okay with that? We have a question from the audience, but hold on. Is that something you're okay with? Okay, thank you. Teresa, I'm gonna turn it back over to you, since we have
I
a
need
question
it.
from the audience.
Wait a minute. You said your motion is to approve the request for a special exception to Article 3, Section A4E3 of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit the raising of more than 5 chickens and pigs in the Aquifer Protection District. You're amending it to be no more than 3 pigs and how many chickens? He's already got 28. I don't think we need to go.
35?
Kevin had 35 if you had 3.
Let's go to the 25 chickens.
Wait.
All right.
Did-
Do I have a second?
Teresa, you saying 35 or 25?
You said 35,
Yeah,
That's what it said there.
right.
so it's 35.
He's telling us he has 28 right now, so, and I don't think you plan to go about that, do you?
Okay. All right. Anybody want a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Been motioned by Romeo and seconded by Kevin.
Because we,
I've closed the public hearing, but, I don't know what to do with the fact that you've got a question for us. I'll reopen the public hearing to have you voice your question, if you wouldn't mind coming forward, please.
Malcolm Estelle, 22 Fort Hill Road. So, I'm just a little confused. The gentleman said he's trying to diminish the amount of animals on his property, which is, I think, 1.5 acres, 1.6 acres of maybe, between 2 lots. Okay? We just gave him more. On the plan that he has now. So if he's looking in his own voice to say he's lowering the animals, that's his design, why would we give him more than he has now?
The ordinance allows at least 5
Okay, but then we have this discussion, 5 animals.
to the strictest extent. That's
Okay,
what the
and then we had,
ordinance
I'm not
says.
trying to rehash that. What I'm saying though is, the gentleman said, I'm trying to reduce them to possibly of 0 pigs. But we just told him he could have 3. And as many chickens as he has now. So I don't understand why he would say that he's going down if we just gave him more. There's no incentive now.
Because he was agreeing to not have cows, not have horses, not have,
He wasn't having those to begin with.
We
he
didn't,
can.
we didn't
There's no law against it, 5 animals.
I don't understand the letter of what 5 animals means.
so we're reducing the amount of, I'll just kind of keep on saying poop,
We're not.
all right? Yeah, wait, well, if it was a dairy cow that he had on there, because of 5 animals, he could have a couple of dairy cows, that's almost 100 pounds a day, each. So, and the pigs, according to this document, is roughly about 7 or 8 pounds.
And you had 5 pigs on a 20-acre farm.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
was down to an area less than the size of this
And you've
room.
been there.
Excuse me, of course I've been
The
there.
area that he's talking about is probably no more than 4 times the size of this room
Yeah,
that's usable.
yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bigger than this.
It's large enough to handle 3 pigs with no problem, as far as their grazing and things like that.
Okay. And that's, so that, you decided that rule was okay then?
No, I didn't decide the rule was okay. I asked him if he was okay with, comfortable
Well,
with no more than 3 pigs and 35 chickens and no dairy cattle of any kind and no horses.
Okay.
And so we're making an amendment to the original application to say if he agrees to this, which he said he would, then we'll take a vote on it.
Understood. But I guess the question is if he was going to 0, why would we need pigs in this conversation?
Well, because he might have some kids in the
Because
future.
he's not
At
0
pigs.
today.
Okay? So would there be a timeline, or there would be an amendment to the variation, or whatever this is, it says, I'm looking to get to that point when these pigs pass on, then we don't go any more pigs?
If that
And we have 35 chickens? If that's what his true goal actually is? I mean, there must be a timeline that is allowed for the pig to get processed, is the word I heard?
Generally, pigs they grow very fast.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So it wouldn't be that much longer before these pigs are processed.
Well, that would be the case, yes.
So that, and then there would be no more pigs.
Well, he might purchase some piglets somewhere and raise some more pigs.
Yes, but I was saying, what I'm saying is, he
He'd
said
be
he was going
providing
down, he
food
was
for
trying to
his
go down to
family.
0 at this time.
Excuse me?
He said he was trying to go down to 0 pigs at this time.
At this time.
But he's agreeing not to have any cattle, any horses. I know you said he's not planning on it, but
Well, he could plan on
he
it, but,
still could.
yeah.
Yeah, so
And even
we're
with-
limiting
even-
him, but we're limiting him on that to try to keep him at 3 pigs and 35 chicken.
Right, but he was saying he was going to 0 pigs.
And then-
That's my problem I'm having.
But he also
Well, he doesn't
stated,
have to go to 0 pigs.
Not
He can
now.
have 5 pigs
he also
and no
stated,
chickens.
We're splitting fine
Under the
hairs.
law, under
I'm
the
not
law,
splitting
we're
hairs.
not-
I'm going by what the rule says.
We can't limit him on 5 animals. He can have 5 horses, 5 cows, you know. We're not here to limit, we're trying to come up with a happy
I was just
medium.
confused on the fact when he said he was going to 0, why?
but he
That's
also
all.
stated, and I guess you did not hear
And
it,
sometime in the future, you could have some for personal consumption?
he would like to possibly have more pigs. For anybody who raises their own animals, there's nothing like your own meat. So when your freezer gets emptied of it, you typically restock it with it.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. I grew up on a farm. I know the drill.
So,
And there is a smell problem, and you guys walk through maybe, but if you live around it, you're not gonna smell it. It's a residential area, it's not a farm.
okay, thank you for your comment.
Okay.
I will reclose the public hearing. It is 7:32. Mr. Varney? All right, there is a motion and a second for no more than 3 pigs and 35 chickens. And you added, Mr. Danaus, no dairy cattle and no horses, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And you approve that with your second? Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Any further discussion from the board? Right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. All right. Thank you. Just so you know, there is always a 30-day waiting period. Okay?
Okay.
They can appeal.
All right. And would I get notified?
Oh, yes.
If somebody objects, then they would file a complaint and you would be notified.
Okay.
Then I think, I don't even know what happens then, does it come before us again? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you all for your time.
thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Sure we'll be seeing you again. All right, our second case tonight is case 23-008 B.A. Stevens, 36 Whites Grove Road.
Okay.
The application is from Cindy H. Excuse me. Application from Cindy A. and Dennis H. Stevens requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A and Article 2, Section C.6 of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit the building of a replacement residential structure with less than the minimum 20-foot setback on 2 property lines and exceeding the maximum building height of 34 feet. The property is located at 36 Whites Grove Road in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 63, lot number 61. Do we have anybody representing this? Right? Again, please come to the table and state your name, please, and your address. Have a seat.
Cindy Stevens in 36 Whites Grove Road.
And my name is Dennis Stevens at 36 Whites Grove Road. We've been the owners of Lot 61 since the year 2000, for 23 years.
Okay. And could you go through your application, please, for us? I noticed that you had, Dale had come out when you filled out your application for a building permit, and it was denied as the structure would infringe on 2 property line setbacks of 20 foot each, and the structure appears to exceed the 34-foot height from the average grade plane. And when you did your application, you did an Exhibit A. Do you want to go through the Exhibit A?
Yes, I do. I'd like to pass out an updated Exhibit A, and the reason for that is that when we had met the deadline for this application, the building department hadn't made a determination on the building height. And in fact, the building department didn't quite know if the definition he was using or was the correct definition. And we threw that on as a second item on this application to let the board decide how to define the ordinance. And I don't know if you need to define it or even if you, or if you, I guess the question, if I come right to it, is whether or not you add all 4 corners of a building on a slope, the elevation outside, and the midpoints, and divide that by 8 to get the elevation, the reference elevation, the grade plane that you measure the height of the building, or do you go to the lowest wall and use those 3 points and an average? So what I'm asking for, and in this case, we do not need a variance on building height if we use all 4 corners and midpoints the way I read the ordinance and divide by 8. If we use the wall, then we do need a variance to the height. The limit is 34 feet, and if we use the lowest wall, which is the deck elevation, the basement elevation on the waterfront, the lowest possible point of the building to the midpoint, we come to 38 feet. So we'd be asking for a variance of that additional 4 feet. Now, again, that's an interpretation of the ordinance. So what I've done is I've modified Exhibit A so that the italics that you see in print here are the additional explanation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you much. By the way, did the building department decide how you're gonna measure?
No.
Good.
So the idea is that we're going to ask for the variance for the 38 feet. And if you care to define how you read the ordinance today, that'd be great. If you don't and approve the variance, then it's not a point, okay? Again, on that particular variance request, on the limit of building height of 34 feet, 3 sides of our proposed structure will meet the ordinance. It is only the lowest basement side, the walkout basement slab, to the height of the roof would be 38 feet. And actually, the slab to roof is 36 feet. But when you take a grade plane 6 feet away from the building and the slope away from the building, we added 2 feet to show that quite possibly we could be 38 feet from that 6-foot grade plane that offset. So I'll go through Exhibit A, and I'll try not to read it. Would you like me to read it from rote, or just go through and explain each section of it?
It's best if you give us, given this, an overview of what you're saying.
Correct, okay, great.
Because this is on file if anybody cares to read it verbatim.
And I'd like to, okay, use this as a display. You have 11 by 17s that were submitted with the application. There's more. If anybody in the audience would like a copy of it, just ask Cindy.
Terry, let me see your marker.
If I stand over here, though,
Yeah.
the
Have
audience can see.
highlighters, do you want a highlighter?
Oh, I thought that was a marker.
Do you want a highlighter?
Do you have one?
Of course I do.
I want to make sure.
Thanks.
All right.
There's a survey and a plan.
This looks like it. This one,
Okay, address your comments and stuff to
I'm not
us,
sure
please.
what you have. This looks like it's cut off a little or something.
We're requesting to tear down and rebuild our camp, which is currently a 28 by 35 foot
This
structure.
is how much land he has over there right now.
This is his.
Yeah. right.
Hey, guys,
I think it's this.
It's okay.
We're gonna use the same, pretty much the same footprint, okay? But we'd like to widen the building 2 feet and extend the building 4 feet. At the same time, move it away from the shoreline. So, to give you an idea of where we are, this is Pawtuckaway Pond. This dark outline is the perimeter of the property, and the rectangle inside is the improved structure, is the new structure. The existing structure is a lighter line inside, and what we propose to do is on the north side, maintain pretty much almost right on the nut, the current setback, okay? On the waterfront side, on the west side, we'd like to push it away from the water 2 feet. We've met with the DES, and they like that idea, and they've already given us a nod that the overall plan looks acceptable to them. On the south side, we'd like to widen the building 2 feet and go into our yard. Right now, along the south side, there is a 2 foot wide planter and a 2 foot wide walkway, and we're just gonna widen it to where the planter is currently. On the back end, we are lengthening the building 4 feet, and the overall back line of the building will go back 6 feet because we're moving it 2 feet away from the waterfront. So we're adding 4, but we're proposing to move back 6. The overall effect on the property line, this property to the north and to the east is owned by a family. It's in my son's name, and he has approved, and we have actually an email from him for the board that was submitted, giving his approval for our plans. To the south of us is the Martin family, and their setback is going from, I think our current distance from the building to the property line is 21 feet, and our proposal is to go to 19 feet. Now that 19 feet setback from the property is only in this corner of the building, the first 4 or 5 feet and out that corner. The rest of the building along their property line is 20 or more. That's because the building and the property line are not parallel. Another item that the building inspector could not define for the board was whether the setback was to the building foundation or any building structure.
Would you mind, if you don't mind saying, when you say setback, would you say side setback or front setback?
Will do.
Just so we know exactly what you're looking, or talking about.
Okay. So, for this property, all the setbacks are 20 feet, front, rear, and side.
Okay.
So, I will try to be explicitly east, west, front, back, but I don't even know where the front and rear of this building is. Okay, so, but they're all 20 feet, so all the same, so I don't think it makes a difference. But the conversation I had with the building inspector, and you notice he's kind of vague in his, general idea that we are asking for a variance on a 20-foot setback. Is that setback to the building foundation? Or is it to the stairs, the fireplace sticking out, the portico for the entrance? Okay, and so, in my experience, I'm a professional engineer and I do a lot of development. In my experience, it's always been the building foundation, because you don't try to measure a setback to the eaves of the house or the overhangs and that kind of stuff. But I want to put that out there because what we're asking for is the worst case setback. It's the distance to the fireplace, to the edge of the portico, to everything but the eaves, okay? I'm not using the eaves. Either the wall, it's the wall of the building. So, for the setback variances on the north side, we are currently 7.98 feet from the property line, and we are actually increasing the building wall to 8.5 feet at that line, as it shows on your plan, but the fireplace is 3.75. Okay, 8 feet to the building wall, but 4 feet to the fireplace. The portico, because there's an entrance right there, is 4 feet, 3.75 feet. On the shorefront side, the current existing distance to the reference point of Pawtuckaway Pond is 13.65, and we're increasing that setback by 2 feet to 15.65. Those dimensions are shown on the plan. On the east side, that might be the front. The setback, the building is currently just inside the setback line, probably 20.5 feet. And worst case, we're asking for a 6-foot setback. And that is to the portico. The building foundation is 12 feet. And to the south, the existing building is 21, and we're asking for 19. And again, on the north and east side, where we have asked for the tightest variances, we're asking the variances for the lowest setback distances to the structures, not actually to the wall. The family owns both those properties. And to the south of us, we have an email from the Martins giving us their approval. And so all of our neighbors adjoining us, all of our abutters, okay, have shown their support in our plans. Now moving to the height, just explaining the overall height objective here. If you go to the building elevations, you look at the elevation called the south elevation. It's the west elevation, but I think it's the waterfront elevation. What's it called, Cindy?
The water, you want the side or the side is the
I think
north?
it's the last page.
You want the lake elevation west?
Lake elevation west.
Oh.
The lake elevation west is looking from Pawtuckaway Pond, okay? Might be the last page.
Okay, thank you. Good.
That's actually a side elevation.
Did you get it?
And this is these. These are, okay, I got them. I do, thank you.
Okay, it's conceptual drawing, and the grades at the top of the hill on the entry side are about where my pin is right here. This is the first floor, and that's the second floor. And this right here is the basement. It's a walkout basement. And so, if you kind of look through these various plans, you can see, well, first before I turn the page, the distance from the basement to the measuring point on the roof is 36 feet. And that exceeds the 34-foot limit on this one wall along the pond side. All three other walls meet the ordinance. However, the average of all four walls is 33 feet, 1 foot below the ordinance requirement. Despite most permit I would do, the building department would say, yeah, your average is 34 feet, I get my permit. But in this case, we're asking for your review and approval of 38 feet. You might want to define that approval tied to the lowest wall of the structure, not the average.
What, I don't understand why your drawing shows 42 feet, looking at the ridge,
That's the ridge.
which,
The measuring point is the middle of the roof. If you have a gable right here on the top, it's the middle of the gable.
Right, that's
And that's defined
that's
in
what
the
the
ordinance.
ordinance shows,
Yes.
midpoint of the roof.
The measuring point.
That's number 2 on Dale's.
right. But 42 feet is more than the 36.
Yes. But we're not measuring to the ridge. We're measuring to the reference point on the roof, which is midpoint. So the ordinance,
The top.
the ordinance is 34 feet to here, and our actual is 36 from the building slab, 38 from the reference line, that's 6 feet out. Okay, so the basement slab will walk out on the deck, but underneath the deck, the ground is sloping down to the water, okay? So the location you make your measurement from, for the height, is called the grade plane, and that is 6 feet out from the building.
My understanding, the height of the buildings was a safety issue with regard to the fire department. So I think we need to have the fire department weigh in on this before we make any kind of a decision.
Dale does cite the article, which I did not check, but when you're ready for a question, I have one. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I read this and I was like, okay, I don't understand anything of what Dale was saying. It, flat or mansard roof,
Thank you.
pitched hip, gambrel, I'm
Yeah,
like, okay,
his
I'm a
is-
nurse, not a.
Yeah, his is the number.
So
number
what I
2.
just handed out to you, if you follow me for a minute, okay, is some calculations along the grade plane around the building. Okay, 6 feet away from the building are your measuring points. You measure the 4 corners 6 feet out, and you measure the 4 midpoints 6 feet out. You take those elevations, you average them, that is your reference point according. That's one way of calculating it. That's the way I define the ordinance. The building department, the building inspector agrees with me. That's his way of defining it. But for some reason, he wants me to ask the board for a variance based on the lowest grade plane, so there's no misunderstanding. So that's why he put on here that I'm exceeding the 34-foot requirement, even though the height of the building, based on the ordinance, is only 33 feet.
Okay.
That just stems my question, because in Part D, you defined just what you said. Take every corner midpoint, and then the average is calculated from these figures. So I'm wondering why he really wanted a variance on height, if it's stated to be measured that way. Is he just doing it for clarification?
And in my discussion with him, it was that
really can't tell us what he said to you.
It could be misconstrued that the ordinance only references one wall, okay? And I've read it 20 times, and yeah, I can misconstrue that once out of 20.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any other questions?
Not yet.
It's really tough, just so you know, to bring us new material the night of the meeting. We request things a week out minimum, so that we get them in our packet, so, you just need to give us a few minutes, please. Pardon?
I do have a question for the applicant when it's appropriate. So,
Might have to
just a curiosity questions.
All right, Mr. Bassett has a question for you.
Increasing the square footage of the footprint per se, did you consider trying to keep it the same?
Yes, we did. The current house has no closets. It has one 3/4 bathroom. It has bedrooms, 3 bedrooms that are so small that once you put a double bed in there, you can barely get around it. It's also a 3-season home, and if we're gonna put the money into reconstruction, we wanna build a 4-season home. We wanna build it livable, so that we have a couple bathrooms, closets in the bedrooms, enough room to move around, separation from dining, kitchen, den somewhat. And also, the current dimensions and everything's on that one floor. Everybody's there 24 hours, especially when it's inclement. So getting the children to sleep, or even retiring for the night, you're right there with all the activity. So the summary of your answer is we want to build a modern home. This has been a camp for a long time, and it's our intent to build a 4-season residence.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm looking at 2 different things here. Lake elevation, entry side elevation.
Yes.
On the lake elevation, you're showing that the peak of the ridge line is at 42 feet, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that shows the ridge line right up here on the entry side elevation.
Yes.
If you were to reduce your pitch a little, would you not then not have the problem of exceeding the elevation problem?
Certainly, you could reduce the pitch to as low as a
No, I'm not going,
512 in this area, but the idea, the important thing for us, okay, was to have an aesthetically pleasing building. We're not building a block and putting a roof on it. You can see that we have certain portions of the building sticking out, floors are overhanging some.
Yeah.
We're giving it some character with windows, with different types of finishes on the exterior and roofing, and different roof lines. This isn't a house of 6 gables, but it's got multiple roof lines. And we left it up to our architect to put that together, and I would hate to flatten a roof to a minimum pitch of like 512 when it looks fantastic with a 1212. It's more of an aesthetic issue than anything else. And that whole roof structure is aesthetics. It could be a flat roof, meet the code. I could build this exact thing with a flat roof and it'd be the ugliest thing on the lake.
we're not suggesting that you make this into a flat roof. I'm just asking if you.
Yes, we have played with different looks. If you look at the architect, Dennis Myers out of Manchester, he's one of the most respected architects in New England, in original thought and colonial looks and that kind of stuff. I've worked with him for the last 15 years in commercial development, and he agreed to take this on. He doesn't do residential design like this. very often.
So right now, you're suggesting that this is a 12 and 12 pitch,
Yes.
and,
Couldn't say, I'm guessing. I didn't ask. She was the judge of that.
okay.
Anybody
So
else?
your suggestion is there's no compromise off of the 12 and 12? 9 and 12 would not be something that you'd entertain?
Pictorially, it looks less than 12 by 12, but that's just a picture. It looks like a 9.
I'm just throwing that out for discussion.
At this point, no, I don't, because I don't know, I'd be conjecturing, really, I don't know. Like you said, it does look somewhere around between a 9 to, it could be a 10, I don't know what it is. But, I think that the pitch on this roof, to me, looking at this, is aesthetically pleasing, and that's what I want. So no, I wouldn't want to change it.
Bonds or anything?
So you dealt with Dale mostly, or did you deal with Mike, Charlie?
Both.
We've had a lot of building inspector, I was just wondering.
Mike was sitting in for Dale, and then Dale came back and re-looked over everything, and that's why I think Dale was mostly the one who pushed for the variance on the height.
Okay, because, I mean, a lot of times our board we even consider the eaves of the house as setbacks, so, I mean, it's not the foundation we usually go by. I just had a couple questions. Where's your septic now on that lot? Your current septic, your current.
On the southeast corner of the building, inside the property line.
Okay,
Our intent is to improve multiple properties at the same time. The property that my son owns to the east and north, we're gonna put a septic on that property with an easement. And we're gonna put a water well, a deep well, on that property with an easement. And we're going to put some dry wells in, or at least one, to collect all the rainwater from the gutters, so that we're no longer draining onto our neighbor's property or the lake. Our neighbor's property to the south of us is downslope.
okay. I was over there and I saw the existing well. Is that just used by your house?
Just our house. And it is a pretty shallow well. At this time of year, we're waiting, it could happen any day. It's
Not with this
gonna be sulfur, very sulfury.
Where's the well for the other house? I didn't,
Okay, the well to the lake to our south, there is none. They use lake water.
oh, okay. Because I asked him if they shared that well or not. They
The
didn't.
ones
And-
behind us do 38.
No, they don't show it, honey.
Well, they don't share it, but they have their own well, and it's out towards the road.
If you look at your
If
survey,
that's what you were asking.
there's another 11 by 17 survey there. You'll see that next to the shed,
Yeah.
there's a well. Actually, next to Whites Grove Road.
Oh, I see the white cap, well cap that says the elevation. That's their well?
Yes.
Okay.
Where'd you see that?
So, how many bedrooms is that house?
That's 3-bedroom.
That's 3 bedrooms? I was just wondering, you're gonna move your septic back onto that lot, so that's gonna be like, so you got 0.65 acres, and yours is about 1/10 of an acre. So you got like 3/4 of an acre, and you're gonna have 6 bedrooms worth of septic on there with their septic, so.
We're not gonna combine septics. We're just gonna have an easement.
Oh, no,
for
I
our
know, but I'm just saying load-wise, the state's gonna recognize, you know, I'm not saying they're not gonna give it to you, because they like to see improvements, but, there's just a lot of septic to go onto that lot. And the access there from there is kinda tough. I mean, the road, Whites Grove Road is tough enough, but when you make that turn and go over to the house, it's, you know, access for the fire department is pretty tough.
And as part of this project, we're gonna be making improvements to that road. This is the first year, that I can ever remember in 23 years it being muddy. And anybody who's seen it in the last week, 2 weeks, it's been extremely muddy, in one spot, like a 30-foot section of it. But we plan to improve it. That road services 4 homes. And it's on our family property.
Okay, any more questions regarding the application to permit the building of a replacement residential structure with less than the 20-foot setback on 2 property lines and to exceed the maximum building height? Okay, go ahead.
Just to get some facts down, existing building, you said 28 by 35, existing building height?
I don't know. It's, want me to guess?
Is it 3 floors?
It's vaulted roof. It's a single floor with a vaulted roof with lofts above it. So I'm gonna say that it's probably 26 feet high.
Okay. And existing building footprint, 2 on one side, you said 4, so that's a 30 by 39?
30 by 40. I'm sorry. Say the existing?
No, new,
Okay.
You did say existing.
The new one is 30 by 40.
okay.
30 by 40, he said.
So that's 2 on one side and 5 on,
He
30
said-
by 40.
He said 30, 540.
so that's 2 feet on one side and 5 feet on the other side.
The survey calls it out at 35.67, so yes, 4.5 feet.
I'm just,
I'm sorry,
Say it
The
again.
the survey shows the building at 35.67 feet.
okay.
by 40?
No,
Now, the new one's 40.
the new one's 40, so that would be 4.33 feet longer, 4.33 feet longer.
So just to state some facts for the board, 26 versus 36 on the height difference. Footprint, about 220 square feet for 1 floor. And he has roughly 2 floors now, so, and he wants to put in 3, so living area space difference. Just to state some facts for the board.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? If not, I want to open it up to the public. Anybody? All right, if you could step away, please, that would be great. It's 8:07. I am opening the hearing up for those who are in support first. If you're in support, please come forward. Anybody? Well, I do have 2 letters to read, as the applicant alluded to. First is from a Chuck Collins. He's a representative of the Martin Family Trust at 34 Whites Grove Road. We want to let you know that we have no objection to the variance and plans for approval for our butters, the Stevens at 36 Whites Grove Road. Thank you, Charles J. Collins. The second one, as he also mentioned, was from an Andrew Stevens, the property owner for 38 Whites Grove Road, which borders the lot for 36 Whites Grove Road on 2 sides, and wish to express my full support for their requested variance related to setback and building height. I have had the opportunity to review all of the site and building plans related to 36 Whites Grove Road in detail, and believe the proposed changes, including the requested variances, would positively impact both the neighborhood and the waterfront. Thank you, Andrew Stevens. All right, anybody else for an approval? All right, anybody who'd like to speak against? Again, please be seated and then state your name and your address.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Andrew Harmon, and my wife Debbie and I own 40 Whites Grove. We are the next door neighbor. The applicant's son has the home that's behind theirs relative to the lake, but there's a little strip in between. But nevertheless, we're the next door neighbor. Now, I know tonight the applicant didn't discuss much of anything about the statute or really the ordinance. But we do have what they have submitted in their paperwork addressing the five-prong test, which of course is
Correct.
what governs here today. And I need to speak to that five-part test. And of course, that's RSA 674-33, I, paren A, paren 2. And of course, the applicant has to establish all five of those
The criteria.
criteria, A
which-
through E. I'm sorry, I can wait for you.
No, I was going to say, the five criteria was when he was giving us the
Okay.
overview.
Thank you. Now, there are many, there are several at least, legal guardrails for your decision that I need to address. I want to begin though with some basic facts that are certainly important. First of all, there are basically four lots that are relevant tonight. There's the one that he mentioned, the trust? And then there's his son's, and then there's our property, which I believe is on the north side. Of the four, the applicant's lot is the smallest, as was noted by one of the board members, it's 0.1 acre. Of the four, the applicant's house currently already is the biggest. The applicant's first floor is the biggest. The applicant's square footage is the biggest. The gross living area is the biggest. That is already the case. And the applicant already encroaches on the setbacks, the 20-foot rule on the lake side and on one of the lateral sides. Now, of course, that's an already relaxed standard of 20 feet. The town's standard overall is 50 feet. But the 20-foot rule applies, but it's already been relaxed.
May I interject here? The 20-foot is for the non-conforming lots.
Correct.
50-foot setbacks are for your traditional lots.
We agree. Yes, the town has already made a concession there,
Correct.
is my point.
Okay.
So it's already a non-conforming lot and by far the biggest house of the four relevant homes. Now, the new home, if it were constructed on the existing footprint, certainly would be taller, but regardless of height, would still be the biggest of the four. That is without expanding it. The applicant states that the home currently is 28 by 35 on its footprint. For comparison, ours is 25 by 27. That's a very important statistic, I'll tell you why. But they want to go from 28 by 35 to 30 by 40. Now, turning to the statute, public interest. The applicant attempts to basically misstate the test and say, this will be a visually appealing home, and encroachments are common in the area. But of course, relief of congestion and preventing congestion is what the ordinance is aimed at. That is the public interest. Now, there's the case, New Hampshire Supreme Court, it's Perot v. Town of New Hampton. The citation is 171, New Hampshire, 183. It's 2018. It's also a case involving a lake, 0.3 acres on Lake Wacawan. The court emphasized, and this is important, cumulative impact is what the ZBA is supposed to be considering with non-conforming uses. In that case, what was offered was to remove several plastic sheds and replace them with a permanent 10 by 16 shed closer to the boundary line. And significantly, the abutter said it's A-okay. And the fire chief said there's no safety issue. And the ZBA said, no, we can't do that. And the Supreme Court said the ZBA quite properly reasoned that while the requested variance might seem to not have a great effect, the cumulative effect of granting it, and of course future similar variances, would have great effect. Cumulative effect is what's important, especially for lakefront congestion, I would submit. Now, that's just common sense. It also happens to be the law. Now, the Perot court affirmed another decision from 2004 that was Bacon versus Enfield, 150 New Hampshire 468. This is rather important because this case involved merely a tiny 4 by 5 1/2 foot addition because they were putting in a new boiler, a new heating system. And that was on Crystal Lake. And the court held that the ZBA quite correctly found that that tiny shed might not greatly affect anything on its own, but the cumulative effect on the natural lake resource of this and future variances would be great. These are the things the court is supposed to be considering. Next up is spirit of the ordinance, that's B. Quite importantly, Perot, when it was discussing cumulative impact, expressly said that for the very same reason, the applicant in that case failed not just the public interest test, but the spirit of the ordinance, substantial justice, and the hardship test. Now, next up, still under spirit of the ordinance, we have the issue of, well, if we're reducing somewhere and then we're just bulging out somewhere else, surely that must be okay. Here they say they're backing off perhaps 2 feet from the water, but of course they're expanding laterally. They're increasing the nonconformity. And as they expand laterally, still that lateral expansion is further encroachment on the lake. It's not 20 feet back from the lake. So a minor lessening of encroachment combined with substantial further encroachments on the setbacks. Now, if that were allowed, that would just make an ordinance and the statute you're governed by meaningless. That's just more common sense. That happens also to be exactly what the Supreme Court said in the case of 9A LLC versus Town of Chesterfield. And that's 157 New Hampshire 361 in 2008. That was on Spofford Lake. And there, the Supreme Court explained that the ZBA and the ordinance quite properly can even alter the character of an area in order by denying variances in order to preserve the natural resource. The biggest takeaway from this case, though, 9 LLC, was this, and this is exactly what the applicants are doing here. The applicants can't rely on neighboring non-conforming uses that predate the ordinance. The ordinance was drafted addressing these non-conforming uses, saying that here are the setbacks, saying that non-conforming uses shouldn't be expanded, because the town was addressing that very situation. You don't get to point to non-conforming uses that predate the statute and say, look, there's a bunch of non-conforming uses, so I get to expand mine. That's absolutely not what is allowed. That is exactly what the court said in that 9A LLC case. Now, in this case, when we're talking about spirit of the ordinance, we of course would want to look at what's the ZBA done, particularly right in that area. And this is where our footprint comes in. And they round it up on ours, but it's 25 by 27. I don't know how many on the board might have been around a couple of years ago, but we knocked ours down and rebuilt it 2 years ago. And the ZBA, quite understandably, made it very clear, you will stick to your footprint. You're not expanding your non-conforming use. That is what the spirit of the ordinance is. And when you're asked to approve something because it's consistent with the spirit of the ordinance, I don't know how you can ignore that fact next door. They don't want to stick to the footprint. We were required to. They certainly could. Their house is already substantially bigger footprint on a slightly smaller lot. Theirs isn't even a bigger lot. Now, I would also say, by the way, our land is assessed at double the value of our building. You can bet when we're paying taxes on that, we would have loved to have gone a little bigger. Who wouldn't? But there's an ordinance for a reason. That's the spirit of the ordinance. Now, the next prong, C, substantial justice. Substantial justice does not mean, oh, well, the applicant really would like to, and how can we allow this, or how can we split the difference? That's not substantial justice. As mentioned in Perot, substantial justice doesn't allow granting a variance if remembering to consider the cumulative impacts says otherwise. They were specifically talking about substantial justice. Another Supreme Court under substantial justice is Husander v. Barnstead, 139 New Hampshire 476. That's a 1995 case. They emphasized that an applicant can't just come in and have a variance granted because, as exactly what this applicant just outlined, they would prefer this new, larger in this case, more non-conforming home to the home that the ordinance would permit. The ordinance already permits them a home that's the biggest one around. Substantial justice is not met in this case. Next up is D, values of surrounding properties shall not be diminished. And again, this is just one of the 5. They have to satisfy every one. The applicant expressly assumes that a big new home somehow would increase surrounding property values. The applicant has never addressed, not tonight, not in the paperwork filed, how does a new home going further beyond the existing footprint, further violating the setbacks, and increasing overcrowding, which is exactly what the ordinance is trying to prevent, how does that somehow not diminish surrounding property values? The applicant hasn't told you. Obviously, it doesn't avoid diminishing surrounding property values. Now, the applicants emphasize that their son is okay with it. As I pointed out in one of the cases above, yeah, that person, that abutter, can speak on the issue of whether there's any diminution of value to their person's property, but they don't get to speak for the whole town. And as Perot teaches us, the statute lists many concerns that go beyond one abutter. The abutter can speak about whether they think there's any diminution to their property, but that's all. Lastly is unnecessary hardship. And this is a biggie. Frankly, it was hard to resist talking about it until now, but it comes up last. The applicant claims that by preventing them from expanding their non-conforming use, somehow a denial would cause them unnecessary hardship, even though they already have the biggest house around. That seems to defy logic, I would submit to you. But when talking about what is necessary or unnecessary, one ought to be mindful to what's the purpose of the ordinance. The applicant tells you the purpose of the ordinance is to protect adjacent properties. The ordinance doesn't say that. It absolutely doesn't. And the statute does not say that. The ordinance does say that everyone affected shall be heard because they need to be protected, not just one's family member, neighbor. The statute expressly worries about all surrounding properties. When we're talking about what's the policy and whether a restriction would be unnecessary in furtherance of that policy. The ordinance at page 39 expressly says non-conforming uses shall not be expanded. So obviously, while it's up to you whether ultimately a variance could be granted, the ordinance is expressly saying what the policy is. It's the same even in the event of a tragedy of a fire destroying a home. What's the ordinance say? Oh, you can rebuild to the footprint. That's the policy. Page 40 says the purpose is protecting natural resources, rural character, and the preamble in particular says, and that's page 2, that the policy is to preserve aesthetics for the area and the town. Now, when talking about unnecessary hardship, that's not the whole test. The test goes on and says, from special conditions distinguishing the property from others. There's no distinguishing condition of the applicant's land distinguishing it from others. There's no special condition of their land. It's just like all the others, only it's smaller with a bigger house. Now, I can give you some very good examples from the Supreme Court on what special conditions are contemplated. One is the Husander case, which I already mentioned. In that case, following the ordinance would have required them to construct a curved house that was skinny and dysfunctional. And they said, okay, that's a special condition of your land distinguished from others. You have enough land to build, but the setbacks won't let you build a functional home. The applicants obviously have a functional home already. In Rancourt v. Manchester, 149 New Hampshire 51, that's in 2003, it wasn't even enough that the landowner bought horse property and a year later the town changed the ordinance to prohibit horses before they could build. However, the court did find that a variance was proper, specifically because there were special conditions of the land based on the lot being the largest one around, well bigger than what was required. And in addition, the way it was configured, the horses would be way in back, nobody could even see them. Now that's a configuration and size of a lot that meets the special conditions test. There's nothing here satisfying special conditions of the land or the property causing an unnecessary hardship in saying to them, you have to stick to the footprint, but that still allows you to build the biggest house around. Lastly, the applicant attempts to satisfy this Part E with the fallback argument offered in the statute that to deny them their preferred home size, 40 by 30 feet, they said, would not allow them any reasonable use whatsoever. Now, obviously, that doesn't pass anybody's common sense test. They already have a wonderful home, the biggest one. To say they can't build a bigger one is not denying them all reasonable use of their property. I understand from something I read, they also want to expand the deck a little bit for the very same reasons. I don't know how you could expand the deck. The deck they have is very large. I think they said there's a gap they want to fill in. I don't know how you could, adhering to this test, say in good faith that they've satisfied all 5 of the criteria and they get to expand that deck further. Thank you very much for hearing me. I do appreciate it. I'm genuinely sorry to have to be here as an abutter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
That was Harmon, right?
Mr. Harmon. Yeah,
Harmon?
Harmon.
Yes, it's Harmon.
Yeah, I got
I could
it.
have
Just
spelled
making
it.
sure.
Thank you.
Anybody else who wants to speak?
There it is, circled it.
How are we all tonight? Sean
How are
Moore,
you?
4 Whites Grove, Nottingham. So after reading through the applicant, guys, thank you for what you do. I understand the job, as you know, and thank you guys for, volunteering for this position. A couple of things, I'm not gonna, and Mr. Harmon did a nice job with presenting more than enough reasons why I think they're not going with the ordinances set aside by the town. But, a couple of things in there what they wrote, which I thought was, the town tax card calls their house 28 by 28. So obviously there's some discrepancy with what numbers they're giving you through our tax card. Not saying our tax card's right or wrong, but you can go online and look at it. So again, 28 by 28 and what they're proposing, big difference on what there is. Going on, you guys mentioned the 12 by 12 roof. If that pitch and that height, because we don't have a ladder truck in town, plus the area they're located, even if we did have a ladder truck, we probably couldn't get it into the location. Again, spirit of the ordinance, not very safe for the community and the firefighters that would be there if needed to be because of an incident that happens to be on there. Mentioning about the height of the things, knowing the property well, been there my whole life, for getting his pitch and bounce, I don't believe there has ever been a hole dug deep enough for where they're proposing But where most of the property around there, if you look at, and you look at the slope of the water, how it goes down, is very rocky and very ledgy. So significant excavations on a lot of .10, that's what we call it in town, he's calling it .11, but we call it .10, you know, is gonna be effect, you know? The fact of saying that you're benefiting the lake by moving it 1.5 feet back, I know he says 2, but if you look for what he wrote here, it was 15 feet from 13.5. That's not even the distance of this table. What benefit is that? You know, houses down the road, if you've been on that road and your constructions, literally houses have been moved back, you know, from which were sitting on the water one time, you know, moved back 20-something feet because obviously had a little longer lot or something, or had to buy land out back in order to make it larger. But that's not the case here. So I don't see how that is there any benefit, you know, for what he's saying. The fact that the house is the certain size, we do give relief at the 20-foot setback. That is why the zoning board, the zoning ordinance is there, is to make non-conforming lots not have to adhere to the 50 feet to 20. Now, if one side he said, and this is just an opinion, hey, I need 19 feet on this side and I need 7 feet on the, 7 feet's too extra from 20 feet. Now, if you're building on your existing foundation, hey, that's a whole different game changer. But to expand on a small lot and make a house twice as large, and again, bigger than every other one around, seems to be a little extreme. Some of the other things too is when reading, again, I don't know if it's changed from the one you gave, but it says here, granting a variance allows the property owner a modest and necessary upgrade. I don't know how a 4,600 square foot house is modest, when you can go down that road and look at 90% of the houses are all probably 1,800 square feet. So it seems like modest is not the right terms. When somebody was writing up on the variances, it seemed to be more of an idea of how can I persuade you to make this seem adequate for his endeavor of what he's looking to do. Again, I'm not opposed to anybody redoing a house and building a house, you know, on their lakefront and re-upgrading their house. I'm absolutely not opposed to that one bit, all right? But to do it in such a demeaning manner of writing it up this way in the presentation of, you know, this, doesn't seem correct in any sort of way. The fact that we all know properties are different. You have an existing property, which is theirs, then they have their son's property behind. Those are two deeded different properties. Family can change. And as we know, any variance or every, you said the terms, I'm sorry to space it right now, but to grant an easement, and anybody knows about easements, they're not the most pleasant thing to have, and they're not the best way to solve a problem. So to put an easement on another property, now if he wanted to combine the properties, make it one whole property, take his front property and his son's property, and make it all one big property, more conforming, and build his 4,600 square foot home, perfect. We wouldn't be here having a discussion. But then to propose an easement to put a septic system on another property, not your own, I mean, that's a red flag right there. We'd never allow that. Planning board would never see that. And again, he does have to worry about the load. Because now if that other house wants to be upgraded, which he mentioned upgrading, now you have two houses on a single septic. Now, how big of a septic do you have to put that close to the water to support 4 bedrooms, 5 or 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms? I don't know. The plans that we got for the house were hand-drawn on a piece of paper. Not really the best way for you guys to make an adequate decision on what's being built on that scenario. So, I mean, that's... I mean, again, I'm not here to oppose the fact of building a house. I just feel that what this is presented in front of you, with the discrepancies that are involved, this is something where if you grant any of these, what people around the lake might call postage stamp lots, are now subject to this type of building. Now, that's more environmentally damaging to the whole lake, as is the lake now with the issues going on to it. So a structure of this size, this close to the water, and when specified in here aesthetically pleasing, that's to the eyes of the person who owns the house. There was no poll taken saying that everybody that went by got a picture of what this is gonna look like and to what they think is aesthetically pleasing. A lot of people think just the same little camp that's been there forever is the way the lake should always be. Keep Nottingham rural, keep it the way it was, right? Do we want, you know, does the guy right there next door with the little camp that's been there since 1960 want the mega mansion sitting next to him? That's not, maybe not his way, or the next neighbor over. So I don't see that to be things. And one thing here, you know, there's also, under Article 1, you know, the front page of the zoning ordinance, there's a couple things that states, you know, to ensure the land use is consistent with the capability of the land to support such use with regards to ecology, aesthetics, and economic consideration. Well, when you take a house and you fill a whole piece of, take a property and fill it all with one house and leave, I mean, the house takes up more than the property. I don't know how that meets any of that, you know, for what our spirits of what the zoning is supposed to be for. To ensure the land does not have disparate effect on other properties, you know, aesthetically or economically. Well, I don't think that's gonna happen here. And to secure safety from fire, panic, and other dangers by providing adequate areas between buildings in various right-of-ways. Well, if you look at the right-of-way that his neighbor has, his son has, and again, the son's property and his property are two separate properties. Where he refers to it as being a family, I have a property right down the street. My brother and mother own the property right next to it. We have two separate properties. I don't let them build on mine, they don't let me build on theirs. It's two deeded separate properties. Just because you're related doesn't mean that they now become one property. And by what's written in here, that's what the applicant is ensuing, that everything's okay because, oh, it's my family, everything will be fine. But that's not the way it should be read, and that's not the way it should be interpreted. It's two separate properties. And when down the road, when you guys make a decision and this house sits here 50 years later, those two separate properties might not be family. And now you've got easements going through, you have septic systems on other people's properties, nothing but a mess. So, I don't see with the current application in front of you, any reason that it should be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Anyone else? Again, please be seated and then state your name and address.
I'm Diane and
I'm JP.
Seabury. We live at 42 White Grove Road. We are, if you look at his little map, we are north 2 properties over. We're next to Andy Harmon. So we're not on his, actually we are on his map, one of the maps. One of the little ones, regardless. Where are we? 63 lot 64 Seabury Family Revocable Trust, that's us. So we're on this map. Just to give a point of reference. Also, I'm supposed to say I'm a physical therapist. Like, did we work together somewhere? I'm like, I know who that lady is. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just, we're just.
Or selectmen, which is
We're not
why we're not
selectmen.
gonna sound like the other two.
We're gonna sum it up. We think it's fantastic that anyone wants to do upgrades to their house. I don't have any problem with that at Baseline. I really don't. We're new here. We've been here for about a year. We've already had our property surveyed. I have contacted and had a whole, Lake Smart came out and did a whole thing with my house, how to make everything better for the lake with the runoff and plants and this and that and the whole 9 yards. So I'm more interested in how do we make everything be healthy and happy. And so my concerns, as everyone has already stated, with the footprint of this house and moving it a little bit here and a little bit there and this sort of thing, I know for a fact that a talented architect could come up with a fantastic, different floor plan on the same footprint that he has. And I know that because we just remodeled upstairs in our house, and we had a talented guy come and make it so much more livable. We didn't change any of the outside. And I don't know that that's even been attempted. I don't begrudge anyone trying to make something to what we consider to be aesthetically pleasing or whatnot. So I don't know that you have to go huger on your footprint to get something that's totally livable. And I'm concerned that maybe that hasn't been approached yet or even entertained. So that's another thing. But the other thing is my husband's family owns for 100 years a property at a beach in Maine. And we've seen what's happened at this town as suddenly variances. Used to be you couldn't build any higher than your neighbor, and then it meant, well, you had to keep at least one existing wall, and then it became all of a sudden, I can't even tell you what monstrosities are down there. You can't even see the water from the house anymore because everyone's bigger, bigger, better, faster, higher, stronger, and it just got out of control. And so my concern would be, as stated, and to sum up, ordinances are in place for a reason. Very valid reasons. I would strongly suggest, I know you went out to visit the guy's pig farm. Have any of you been down in this corner of White's Grove? It is tight.
Yes.
We are on top of each other. We have 0.1 acre. I mean, this survey was like to the inch, tight, tight, tight. And it's just very congested already. So making things even larger, it is a concern. I don't have any problem if plans were resubmitted that were reasonable in size, that took into consideration the health of the lake, specifically regarding setbacks, and I'm sure the DES has much to say about that, the septics, we all know about site surveys and all of that. I don't have a problem with that, but this existing one, I really have a problem with kind of slowly scooching over onto everyone else's property. It concerns me, because it's just a slippery slope. You let one do it, and then someone else is gonna do it, because they did it, and they did it, and they did it. So I'm gonna stop there, because I think they hit all my points. You have anything else, honey?
I told her to go last. I think it was a mistake because those are tough acts to follow.
Yeah, those are tough acts to follow.
No,
Yeah.
I got nothing to add.
Yeah, nothing to add. I think we're on the same page. That's it. I mean, everything that everyone said, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And just so you all know, it's mentioned that what you do for one, you do for others. The zoning board does not set precedents. People like to think that just because somebody's done it, the other can. Each case is taken individually before the board. There are considerations to, yes, what has been on the law books and decided, but each case is heard and considered on its individual merits, not what did we do for this person on the lake before, okay? I just don't want people thinking that whatever decision is made for future cases, because that is not how this works. Anybody else? Seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing. Pardon me?
Doesn't he want to do it?
Yes. It's 8:43. The applicant and his wife would like to come forward, please.
Thank you. Cindy Stevens, 36 Whites Grove Road.
And I'm Dennis Stevens, 36 Whites Grove Road. It's kind of hard going up against an attorney in opposition on your ZBA variance request. But I took some notes and I'll recollect it and address some of the issues that were brought up by all three parties. Since it's the most recent from the Seaberries, the Seaberries have come to the area in less than 2 years, and welcome. But the significant part of that is that their very home went under construction for almost 2 years with improvements in all three levels. And they probably do have the tallest house in the neighborhood and the biggest house in the neighborhood as a matter of square footage.
Excuse me.
Yep.
I do want you speaking to your application and concerns.
I'm responding to their comments concerning our house and our request to rebuild our house. And so,
But what they have done and what has happened there is not before this board. Your application is what is before this board.
okay,
And we didn't see anything for their case, so it's totally irrelevant here.
okay. Then I'll just stress our property and our request. Our septic system has come up many times. Yeah,
Because you brought it up.
we brought it up, and I just wanted to let you at ease knowing that we had a place for it. I can put it on our property, I can put it off our property. We will comply with the New Hampshire DES's requirements on locating that and get the appropriate.
Actually, your septic system is not on the application.
Right.
The application before us is regarding your setbacks and your building height, period.
Gotcha. Okay. Concerning our setbacks, I want to remind the board of my presentation that the northern building line and foundation will be built on the exact same line that's existing. We are asking for a variance for that because it's an existing non-conforming use and we're tearing it down and rebuilding. And as I understand, under those rules, we have to ask for that variance, even though we're putting it in the same spot.
But you're not putting it in the same spot.
Okay?
If you're expanding your property, you're not putting it on the same spot.
I
You
just,
wouldn't be here.
I was just addressing that northbound, that north foundation line.
Okay.
Okay? The north foundation. The west foundation line, we're moving 2 feet away from the waterfront, so we're increasing that setback from what it is now to 13.65 to 15.65. On the southern setback, adjacent to the Martins, we are asking for a variance for a 19-foot setback that's on the last 4 feet of the building. The rest of that southern line complies with the ordinance. On the east side, because we want to lengthen the building and move it 2 feet away from the building, we're asking for a 6-foot setback to the portico, which is 12 feet to the building foundation. I feel these items are all reasonable. The conforming, this property, this house was built before the zoning codes and was a non-conforming issue the minute the zoning codes came into effect. So even to tear it down and build it exactly upon its current footprint, we would be asking for variances.
How do you figure that?
The building inspector told me. It's, if we're tearing it down and putting it back up, we have to ask, it's new construction, so we have to add, if we're not doing, we don't plan to do a retrofit or an addition, it's new construction.
He said that if you tear it down and build on the same footprint, you have to get a variance?
I was told that, yes.
Okay, but that's still hearsay. 'Cause
It's new construction.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you would, but.
Well, the fact that he may want to move it, then it's not the same to the nth degree, so maybe that's why.
Well, yeah, if
But
he's
he was
moving
gonna
it,
build
then he's
on
not
this.
building on the same footprint. But anyway, go ahead. Did you have anything else to add?
There's several references to our neighborhood and how this particular property compares to other properties and how our house compares to other houses. It is certainly not the biggest house on, or even probably one of the 50% biggest houses on Whites Grove Road. There is significant develop further towards the highway and further out towards Cove Cottages. The houses are all larger. Their setbacks are extremely tight to the property line, and all of the lots are small. And if I didn't bring any maps to show you of this, but just riding up and down the road or looking at the tax map for the town will show you this.
question for you. Existing, structure, foundation is what type?
The existing foundation is stone and log post on rocks, individual rocks. I'm an engineer, and excavation is not gonna be a problem. We'll be doing it safe with erosion controls that close 15 feet from the lakefront. The area is supported by retaining walls, and the deck and
Okay,
That's-
so essentially there is no foundation.
there is no slab, no
Understood.
foundation. It's a crawl space, it's wet and dark and
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for the applicant? Any other
No.
comments?
I just had one comment. I mean, your lot is small, I mean, .11, but I mean, combine, your family and your land, I mean, you own a substantial piece combined with the other piece, but I mean, that's a separate lot. But I think your neighbors, you know, they enjoy, all the land you own. I think all the land you and your son own combined probably adds up to more land than, you know, all the other neighbors that have spoke.
Exactly, and the encroachments that we're asking for, the most setback variance that we're asking for is on our adjacent property, okay? And the family's adjacent property. It should be noted that to the north of my son's property, Mr. Harmon, who spoke here, property is only, it depends on which surveyor you look at or which deed you look at, but the worst case is 4 feet, and the best case is 6 feet from my son's property line. That's his building setback, 6 feet to the foundation. To the south of us, the Martins, their building is 19 feet from our property line. And that is what we're asking for here too. That's why we feel there's a lot of space between the property lines and the building. We've discussed this with them, and there's no problems. And the only, I'll remind you again that we're going to the projections of the building, not to the foundations of the building.
Again, I know you want it to be the 33 feet and not the 36 or the 42, but my concern with the building height is that I know the ordinance was set in place because of fire and rescue, and so I would like this board to move to continue the case pending some comments from the fire department on this.
Well, my comment on that, Madam Chairman, is the fire department will review the code, and when we put together our building permit application, I mean, and even if it was within the code requirements, but
I am not willing to approve something that the fire department would not approve. I don't feel that is in anybody's best interest. And as long as I am a member sitting here, regardless of which spot I'm in, my vote would be a no until I hear from the fire department on the building height, just so you're aware. So it is in your best interest that we continue the case to at least hear from the fire chief, acting fire chief.
do we, can you give me some indication to what reference point we're measuring the building height to?
I am not a person who has that kind of knowledge to give you, but I'm leaving that up to the fire department. If they feel that what you have proposed is something that they could safely handle, don't forget, it isn't just your house
Right.
that we're looking to be, have safety on. If your place should catch fire, I don't want it affecting your neighbors because they can't get in to take care of your place.
Right.
Because they don't have the adequate, trucks to do it with. So, I'm sorry if you don't like that, but I
Well, I
just
understand your
want to be
concern.
safe for the neighborhood.
I'm totally fine with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Totally fine with that. I don't want anybody to get hurt anytime.
Thank you, and I just, I wouldn't be able to live with myself
I understand.
with that.
I do.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's fine. We totally understand.
You want to make a motion to that?
I'm-
Or do you want a motion?
I'm the chair, so somebody else.
Do you want a
needs to
motion?
make a motion with that. Yes, and if, and any, I mean, have any other things? Do you want to go and look again at the lot as a committee, or do you guys good with what you've seen and just want this looked at?
I won't dictate anything, but the suggestion was if you lowered that roof pitch, then you wouldn't have to worry about the fire department too much, would you? It might not
Exactly,
be
and
as
there's,
thick.
I could flatten the roof entirely. To us, the.
I'm not asking to flatten the roof, I'm just saying, if you're stuck on 12 and 12 and can't go to 9 and 12, that 9 and 12 might, then we don't need the fire department to judge.
Well, I can also shorten the basement height. It's
I'm
based
just-
on 10 foot.
I'm making a
10 foot,
suggestion,
10
that's
foot.
all.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of things to resolve the building elevation portion of it.
And just so you know, the board has traditionally, and even with the building inspector, the out pitch of a roof from those corners is where your encroachment is. So you want to go from your basement line to the, for your setbacks, and that's not how it works.
Okay,
So even if you have a fireplace that abuts out and it takes up an extra 2 or 3 feet, it's from that point to your neighbor's line that we're going by, and not your house walls or your basement line.
then what we're proposing, our request is accurate on 3 walls. Take that on 2 walls, and on 2, it'd have to be increased by 2 feet for the eaves.
Are you saying that,
The portico in front would take care of the front elevation. On the north elevation, the fireplace would take care of the eave on that elevation, but on the waterfront, there's no projections, and on the south, there's no projections. So the eave would be an additional 2 feet of, 2 feet closer to the property line.
so that you're saying then that it's not the,
Not 19 feet, it'd be 17 feet. And not, was it 15 feet, 15.65 to the foundation, you'd have to add, subtract 2 feet, so 13.65.
So the board is suggesting you consider a postponement for a month to get some answers. The board is also suggesting that when you come back, you may want to offer some solutions to help the board vote in favor. It's just a suggestion.
do we have any, do we have motion, more comments? Or you want to be?
They could instruct the board to actually take a vote if there was their desire.
Yes,
Okay.
I don't know that he wants to do that.
No.
No,
Okay.
All right,
we'll get you some answers.
All right, is there a motion?
Want me to do it?
sure, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to postpone case number 23-008.
Continue. The correct word would be continue,
Conti-
to continue the
Yes,
case.
ma'am, Madam Chair. I make a motion to continue
Thank you.
case number 23-008, VA Stevens, 36 Whites Grove Road, application for Cindy A. and Dennis H. Stevens requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C. Dot 3. Dot A, and Article 2, Section 3C. Dot 6. Dot of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit a building of a replacement residential structure with less than the minimum 20 feet setback on 2 property lines and exceeding the maximum building height of 34 feet. The property is located at 26 Whites Grove Road in Nottingham, New Hampshire, and is identified as tax map number 63, lot 61.
And the date certain would be August 15th at
And
7 PM.
the board would revisit this case on August
1-5.
1/5 at 7 PM.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, just so you know, all your abutters, you will not be re-notified. This is your notice right here and now. We would be reconvening on this case on August 15th.
We were never notified. Anyway, we.
They're not abutters.
Yeah, they're not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
We take a 3-minute recess before we
Yes.
hear the next case?
Yes.
Okay, good.
The next case is 23-009 VA Morel, 31 Cardinal Lane. The application is from am I saying it correctly? Is it Morel?
Yes.
Requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit the building of a wraparound porch, which would extend into the 20-foot setback. The property is located at 31 Cardinal Lane in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 6-3 and lot number 8. And are you Mr. Morel?
Yes, Donald Morel, 31 Cardinal Lane, Nottingham, New Hampshire.
You? Would you like to take us through your application, please?
And my application was to, I have 2 porches now, all right? The first porch, the side porch is, the main porch is 6 feet by 16 feet, 20 feet, okay? 6 by 20 feet, and then there's a bump out for the stairs, and it's 4 feet, so so I have, it's actually 10 feet out. All I'm trying to do on that porch is square it off. Okay, so I'm not encroaching any further on this, on the boundary line, which I have, which is 22 feet away from the edge of the porch,
Right, but that,
which is still 22 feet away from the edge of the bump out.
yeah, when I went over, I wondered why you were even asking for a variance.
Well, it's
Well,
because
that's
of this
because
one
the
over
building
here.
inspector told me I had to.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna extend it towards the road so that it will match the front porch, because the front porch, I want to extend to the side porch and just make it a wraparound.
Okay.
Now, the problem, I'm sorry?
I said that's probably why you're here, because you're going out towards the road, right?
Right, that's absolutely, because now, the only problem that I can see is, they told me I had to have a 50-foot setback from the road.
Yeah, that didn't make sense.
And
It's non-conforming, right?
it's a
You're not-
non-conforming lot.
Right, you're not 2 acres, so.
I'm not 2 acres, I'm .2 acre.
Right. I was just gonna say, this isn't
And all I'm asking for is 1 foot closer to the road. I took
And-
pictures and everything to show you exact, I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything or try to pull anything over anyone's wool, over anyone's eyes. So I took pictures and everything, so you could see what it
Those
is.
pictures were great, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
when I looked at this quick, I was a little confused. The message from Charlie says applicant has filed for permit for an unattached garage.
that's right, I saw the same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird.
So there's
Didn't make much sense.
typo,
And I was told by this young lady back here, he used a set format and forgot to change garage.
but that needs clarification.
Correct. The application, excuse me, the building permit denial needs to be corrected for the record.
Mr.,
This cannot stand.
yeah, that doesn't,
This is incorrect.
Okay.
but when I went over there, Mr. Morrell said that you must have dealt with Dale to start with, right?
No, yeah, Dale the the
Dale
original.
was almost fine with it and gonna give you a permit, right?
Right. Dale, when I went to talk to Dale, we were going over this, and he was talking to me about the encroachments and stuff like that, and all of a sudden, he got a call from the firehouse saying that he had a stroke, he had to be pawned. So he says, we're gonna have to talk to you later, just leave the paperwork on her desk, and, the new building inspector will take it over. And, from the new building inspector that took over for him, I went back and talked to him, and he goes, oh, no, he says, you need 50 feet from the road, so,
If the board suggested to you a continuance, postponement,
Yeah, it would be to continue
Continue.
the case, but
continuance,
for,
would you be receptive to that?
Why does he need,
on what,
Well, one, there's paperwork clarification that's needed. There's a question of whether it's needed at all. We could get some answers for next.
but we don't wanna hold him up either.
I'm in a time crunch.
That's why I asked him if he would, if it would hold him up.
It would hold me up. I'm in a time crunch for two reasons. First, the front porch is a safety hazard. I've got it taped, I don't know if you saw it, I got it taped off with caution tape because the ants got it and the rails and the railings are falling off. Pressure treated doesn't mean pressure treated. So,
Not anymore.
not anymore.
Okay, so
And
the answer to the
another thing
question is that you would
I have a
prefer,
contractor waiting.
you would prefer, if the board can vote tonight, you would prefer the board to do so.
I would.
yeah, let us hear more about the case. As far as the building permit application denial, the denial statement is correct, in that it states that it's because it extends into the 20-foot setback, and it does state for a wraparound deck. It's the first statement on that application denial that is incorrect, where it says for a permit for an unattached garage. But the actual denial statement is correct. So, yes, this needs to be fixed, but I don't think it's any reason to
Well,
continue the case tonight.
we can fix it, can't we? With
Yeah.
regards to the unattached garage?
Pardon me?
We can fix it with regards to the unattached garage.
It
Well,
needs
he's
to
not
come
in
through
asking for
the
that.
building inspector, because this really is, it's wrong,
Just a mistake.
and it's correct.
Okay.
It can be corrected, but it needs to be corrected by the building inspector. So we know that you are here because of your deck. People have gone out and seen your property.
Yeah.
Would you go through, if you don't mind,
Sure.
sort of your, application that you completed?
I don't, I'm sorry, I gave all my copies to the building inspector. I don't have the application with me.
You can use these.
Okay.
So they pretty much just want you to go through the 5.
All right. And I didn't bring my glasses either.
You didn't either? Okay, would you like me to review it with?
No, I can just hold it out here and see it. Where would you like me to start?
Are your arms long enough?
A variance request, it's,
Number one.
number one
Variance request.
on the next page where it says number one.
Okay, number one.
There you go.
Yeah, this is the first time ever doing this. You know, I tried go by the books this time. See, granting variance would not be contrary to public interest because, well, first of all, the surrounding neighbors wouldn't be affected by doing this. The person in the back of me, they're not being affected because I'm not extending towards them. The person on the I don't know if it's north, south, east, or west. Anyway, I think it's the south side of me, the side of the house where the upper driveway is. He's not gonna be affected, first of all, because I have 22 feet there. So that's, and then towards the road, the person on the other side of me, that's on the other side of the road, he came to me the other day and he says, I got this letter. He says, that you wanna build a porch. He says, what the heck kind of notion is that? He says, you have no problem, go ahead. So, that's just word on word though, it's not him saying it, so you have to take my word on that. And so I'm only encroaching onto the road by 1 foot. So, that's, I don't think it would have a negative effect on anybody.
You're not encroaching on the road, you're encroaching on the front setback.
Front setback,
That's all.
okay,
If you're encroaching on the road, you'd actually be on the road.
yeah.
We're just
Okay.
on the setbacks.
Yeah, okay, no, the front setback, thank you. So, we okay on that one? Okay, number two is the, if the variances were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because it's, first of all, it would be a farmer's porch wraparound, because it's gonna be covered. It would be all new materials, and it would be actually a beautification of the house. The side porch is already covered. So I would just remove that roof to comply with the new, you know, pushing it out. And plus, I can't say it won't decrease anybody's property value. I can't prove that, but just to my opinion, it would not decrease affect anybody's property value. Number three, granting the variance would do substantial justice because, first of all, it would upgrade my existing deteriorated front porch, and the new design would beautify the house. If the variance is granted, the value of the surrounding property would not be diminished because I'm not decreasing the value of my house. If anything, I'm increasing it by adding beautify, you know, to it. Unnecessary hardship. The only unnecessary hardship is I'd have to go back to the front porch as being the same size. I have a hard time with it the size it is now because of the steep incline on the stairs going up to it. As you can see in the picture, it's hard moving furniture in and out of it. If I had a wraparound porch, the furniture could come in on the lower level, which is on the uprise of the driveway side, which is only like 3 feet versus 8 feet. And it would be easier to come up and just bring the furniture around right in. I know you can say, well, why don't you go on the side door? But the side door is only a 34-inch door. The front door is a 36, which is more compliant to moving furniture in. And the purpose, proposed use is a reasonable one because the comfort of, first of all, my wife and I want to be able to kind of sit out on the porch and enjoy the porch, not just on the side, but also on the front. If we had it on the front, we could put a couple chairs in and small little tables so we could still sit out on the roadside with our cup of coffee in the morning and not look at the woods on the other side. Or we could have either or. Now, is that it?
Alana, on this, I'm just noticing now, my copy doesn't have a signature of the applicant on it. Do you know, does your copy in the office? No.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, I was supposed to sign that? You know, I probably signed the original one before I had to redo it. Can I sign it now? I'll show you my ID.
You can do it with Alana later. But it does need to be signed for your
Okay.
file, please. That is something that, yeah, needs to be done. All right, anybody have any questions,
I do,
comments?
I do.
Oh, no.
I'm looking at this diagram that you created. Now, I'll call this the front door,
Yes, that's the
which
front
is
of
in
the
the
house.
middle?
The front of the
Okay.
house.
You're gonna widen the deck from 5 feet to 6 feet.
Yes.
In front of the front door. The stairs that are there now are coming out completely, they're not gonna be replaced.
They're gonna be removed completely.
Yeah. But they're not being replaced right there.
And. It's gonna be removed completely. And.
But they're not being replaced right there.
No, they're gonna be removed completely. And. It's gonna be removed completely. I'm sorry?
You're not replacing those stairs, you're removing them and that's it.
That's it,
The new stairs will be at the corner.
the corner.
And the stairs coming off of the side porch
Yes,
are gonna be removed also?
yes,
So you'll only have the one set of stairs on the corner?
yes.
Okay. The front porch, if you would, or the front deck,
Yeah,
is not gonna it's not gonna continue past the front door over the garages. It's gonna pretty much stop at the front door and make an L shape around to the side of the building.
yes,
Okay. And because you're going out an additional foot from where the landing at the front door is now,
yes.
you're encroaching.
I'm encroaching the road.
Okay, no, you're encroaching the
Encroaching the
setback.
setback, yes.
All right, so that's about it. That's my questions.
Okay.
So we really don't have a hard dimension on what the final stairs will be on the corner.
As
In other
far
words,
as,
28, subtract 6, 22 to the deck edge, but the stairs go out.
oh, I see what you're
Talking
saying.
about those corner stairs?
The corner stairs is just not,
His driveway, I think your land goes further away in the
It-
driveway,
it
because I
goes-
parked.
Look at the
parked-
picture, look at
It
the
goes on an
picture.
angle.
Right.
The
It goes a
driveway
lot
comes
of-
out, so it
That
wouldn't
wouldn't be,
stairs wouldn't be
toward the
encroaching.
road, it wouldn't be.
so I'm trying to figure out where does it encroach on the 20 feet?
Right at the front door.
Right at the front door, yeah.
That's 28 subtract 6.
Well, it says 31 there, so I don't
Right.
know where,
Well, I have over here, it says, doesn't it say 28 to the road?
No, that's
it says 31, I think.
31.
But you have,
Is this an old copy? 28?
Okay, that.
One side says 28.
Oh, that's an old.
Yeah, I think he's looking at this.
Right.
He's looking at that.
31 to the road,
Flip it,
and
Oh, I didn't even know there was something in the back.
31.
to the property
Oh,
line.
okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, and then, so how does the 20 feet play in?
Well, the 20, this one, that's what
Well,
I'm saying,
that's-
that's what he is saying. He said he doesn't understand why
So
he
that's
failed
why
to
I
put
was
side.
asking for a continuance,
Well-
so we could figure out where the 20 comes from. Because I don't know if we need to vote, I don't know what to vote on. I don't see an encroachment less than 20.
I mean, I'm a pretty good judge of distance, and I standing there, I didn't think your front porch was even 20, I didn't think you needed it on the front porch, and I knew you didn't need it on the side, the other one.
From the, on the
I
front.
don't,
So what
I
I
mean, we
was
could,
suggesting a continuance that gives him the opportunity to go back with Dale, revisit this, and this might go away.
right, but it might not, and he might get delayed for,
Uh, Again, it sounded cleaner,
yeah, I know.
because I'm not, I can't vote.
All right. What's holding up?
Where's the encroachment? I don't have a drawing that says less than 20 feet.
well, don't forget, we do have the ability to state that we do not see, we are approving this application for building because we do not see an encroachment within the setback. So we are approving his request to build his porch.
Yeah.
Because there is no
But how does that
encroachment.
get confirmed?
Pardon me?
How does that get confirmed
It
after the
would be through
fact?
the building inspector. Dale will be going back out as he, with his, building permit has to be there, and then Dale will be checking it to make sure that he's not encroaching. We can specify with no encroachment, as there is none with the plans that have been presented to us.
I would we could just give him a variance of 19 feet, or just to make sure, just in case he does encroach, but I didn't think he did, but.
Why not just approve?
I'm not, I will plan to sustain if there is a vote, Madam Chair.
All right.
To abstain, okay, but we still would have the 3.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the application of Donald Morel requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C dot 3 dot parentheses A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance, to permit the building of a wraparound porch. And I'm stopping there.
Well, you gotta give a distance there, like no closer than 19 feet or something like that. to the
No
front
closer,
line.
no closer than 19 feet to the,
Front
to the
line.
20-foot, to the setback of the road. To the front setback,
To the front setback,
Front
we said,
setback.
yeah, it's not the road.
yeah.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve case -23, excuse me, that we approve case 23-009 B8 Morel, 31 Cardinal Lane. The application from Donald Morel requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit the building of a wraparound porch with no greater than a 19-foot encroachment on the front setback. Is there any discussion?
It's not a 19-foot encroachment, it would be a 1-foot encroachment.
Okay,
Well, no closer than 19
no
feet.
closer than 19 feet.
There you go, go along with that,
From the front.
yeah.
No closer than 19 feet. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we shall proceed to vote. All those in favor, signify by
Aye.
saying aye. All those opposed, any abstentions? It's a 3-1, it's your,
Okay,
again, there is the,
gotta sign the application, though.
please. And there is a 30-day, just so you are aware.
Oh, I can't do anything for 30 days?
No.
You
Yeah,
can, but
You can, but if somebody objects, it comes back for rehearing.
You do at your own risk.
I doubt that anybody's gonna
I don't
object.
see too many objections here yet.
don't either. But we have to let you know that there is that
That's stipulation. yeah.
stipulation,
Okay,
okay?
all right. Say 18th, right?
Today's the 18th, yes.
Gonna build it yourself?
What's that?
Are you gonna build it yourself?
Oh, I'm gonna help the contractor. That was the agreement. I mean, I was a contractor for the government. I restored historic buildings. And plus, I built that house. So,
Okay. I move that we close the meeting and get the heck out of here.
You know what,
We gotta do,
we have just a couple
we got
quick
minutes.
things here. Okay?
am I free?
You are free to go, thank you so much. Normally, we would open this up for public comment, there's no public, so we're gonna skip to that. Other business, I just wanna remind everybody that we do have a meeting in August with the, planning board. It is on August 23rd. Please come to that so that we can be discussing things like the, animals in the aquifer district that we needed some discussion on. And as of tonight, setbacks measured where to where, and building heights. These are some things that we need to clarify in our zoning ordinance so that we aren't having these major discussions like we've had the last 2 meetings. So please come to that meeting, if you can at all possible, be there. We do have someone who is willing to also be an alternate, who is not able to show up tonight, but hopefully Mr. Bob DeRocher will be joining us on the zoning board. Has he met with you at all or talked with you? No, okay. Approval of minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from June 20th and our site walk minutes of July 1st? They were emailed out to everybody. Any comments,
Nope.
corrections, anything? I have a motion to approve both.
Motion made to approve both.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second to approve the minutes?
I'll second.
From the sidewalk? It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of June the 20th and July 1st sidewalk. Making discussion? All those opposed, excuse me, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, so it's 301. And now, and do you have anything for us for, I mean, we have one case now, it looks like, for next month? The continuation from tonight? Yes, okay. And again, if people come to you with, I have these last minute things and we've already received our packets the week ahead of time, it's, unless it's critical, they should not be doing that to us because it is not fair to us as board members to be looking at things during a meeting that's a correction like that.
I'll try to say that when they drop off the application.
Okay, thank you. I would appreciate that. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye, aye, aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.